Okay, we're going to go over some of the practice test questions, probably not all, because averages were really good. And we're going over right now how to do corrections. On a sheet of paper that you can hand in to me, it could be the back side of the practice test itself if you really want to let go of that. But I would advise you to not. Some people start panic studying the night before or whatever, and you're not helpfully studying the night before. You're just panicking. So reassure yourself. You can look at that paper. It's yours to keep. You need to list the given information for that problem. And if you made a mistake, I find oftentimes students just confused what information was relevant to that problem, or you missed that, hey, when someone catches an object that they threw at their hand, that final displacement is going to be 0 because it ended up right back where they released it from. Okay, so just list it. V0 equals this, x0 equals that, etc., etc. Doesn't have to have any words. Just a nice list. Write out how to solve. So this is where you need to get a little bit creative. If all you need is the right formula, like rearranged or solved, or maybe with numbers plugged in, then that's all you need. Write that down. And then this is where I'm silently judging you. I'm not going to tell anyone, but you have to admit to yourself, okay, what did I need to know or notice to get that question right next time? Because now when I see a really similar one on September 4th, on the real test, here's what I'm going to remember to do to get it right. So it might just be like, oh, read the thing more carefully. That's fine. Be honest. I'm really just judging if you wrote something relevant down. Okay, I'm not judging you mentally. Trust me, I'm the king of mental errors. That's how I got so good at this. But right, really do key it in. So this is what I needed. And if you're not sure, I'm really good at analyzing people's work and problems too. I'll find the mistake, won't I, Calvin? I'll find where you went wrong, especially if we talk about it for about 20 seconds. Okay, that's what you need to write. So that can be really short or really long. Do what you need to do to never miss a question like that again, because a similar one is coming right up. Okay, so I actually want to talk today about the practice a little bit. Um, Hopefully then, if you can just try all the test review that you haven't done, we'll be doing something creative and experimental tomorrow. I'm not sure how it's going to come out. Hopefully good. I'm cleaning some lab equipment today, nice and sterile, so we can use it tomorrow. It'll be interesting. You won't have to you won't have to use equipment that other people have touched, but we'll be doing something. It'll be interesting. Let's see. Good. So after the lesson, I may break it into two parts. Then we will hopefully have time to try practice questions, just warm up a little bit more. Any questions before I get going? Okay. I'm going to zip through these first few pretty fast. You have the answer key, so that has to occur to me. All right. I like to mark in green, actually, when I'm correcting. If it took 6 seconds to get up and down, that means its velocity was 30. After 2 seconds, 30 will have been reduced to only 10 upward. After 3 seconds, it's 0, etc. What's the velocity? So this is half a second after. So that's B. Let's see, to what maximum height does it rise? You can actually slice the time in half, say 3 seconds. How far would it fall in 3 seconds? Because we have no air resistance, we have symmetric parabolas. So one way to say is 1/2 gt squared. 1/2 times 10 is 5 times half of the time, 3 squared, would be 9, is 45. Okay, what's the downward speed of the ball? What goes up must come down, and at the same speed when its displacement is the same. Equation 3 proves that. Okay, and then, it's the one I'm really interested in. What 2 times? It's not going to let me extend the page. Lift up. Oh, there it does. Number 6. If there's no questions on those first 5. Okay. So I believe you. If you looked at those first 5 questions, and even if you missed some, you said, oh, there's no way I'll miss that again. I just confused something, wrote a number down wrong. Okay, that's what belongs in your hands. I confess, I'm so silly. I read that 6 as a 5. Anyway. Wow. Okay, what 2 different times is the ball 10 meters above its height? Well, okay. That seems like a crazy question at first until you write down, and maybe you have no idea how to solve it. What this is really saying is when your vertical displacement is plus 10 meters from where you started, I'm going to save time by ignoring significant digits here. When that is true, t equals what? Okay, and we also know the acceleration is 10 meters per second squared. Downward, we should have some confidence that v0 equals plus 30 meters per second. Did anyone find, so you don't have to confess to getting them wrong, did anyone find that you could trace the wrong answer through all 5 answers that came before that one? We could make Calvin. You could? Or no? Want me to try? Okay, here's what I mean. I tried to avoid this on tests. Come on, computer, scroll me back up. Oh, that was bad. No. Let's not do that. Whatever that did, undo it. And that too. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay. A mouse button. So much, so many times the scroll button on the mouse has saved my butt. Okay. The original upward velocity of the ball. Okay, let's look at question 1 and 2 a little more objectively. Let's pit ourselves against the teacher. I have to teach AP Physics to do this against College Board because some of those AP Physics questions, brace yourself, Calvin, they are just awful. Like, it is meant to trick you and mess you up every which way. But okay, after 2 seconds, my upward velocity has to be 20 less than it started. Accelerating down at 10 meters per second. So the only pairs of answers that are acceptable is where the answer number 2 is exactly 20 less than the answer number 1, okay? And that's of course true for the right answer. But so if if 60 were the right answer here, then there should be a 40, and there's not. If 15 is the right answer, oh, there should be a -5. Okay, so there is right there. So I could say, maybe somehow, like I divided by 2 twice, oh, and then I got the wrong answer. After 20, there should be 0. Okay, so looking at there's 2 possible answers, 2 theories to explain this motion. I could start up at 30 meters per second, or I could start up at 15. Okay? After 3.5 seconds, if you start at 15, now you're going to subtract 35. Is there a -20? No. So already, okay, if you chose one of those first 2, it's okay, you forgive yourself. It's the first practice quiz, never seen Whitcomb's shenanigans before. Okay, but already on the 3rd question, if you insist that it started up at 15 meters per second, now there's no choice. There's no choice that is logically follows from that. So on the real test, please realize that you're guessing. Oh, I better go back and check the last 2 or 3 questions that were tied to this one, because like it's the only way. So here's the only way you can get bonus points on my tests. If I miswrote the question, and you're just dead sure that that's right, and it's none of those choices, then you can choose none of these. And if I really wrote it wrong, I'll just give everyone credit for that point, including because I feel bad for the people that I tricked. Okay? Now, you're taking a little bit of a risk, because if it's inconsequential, like if I put a 3,5.0 seconds instead of a period or something, that you should have realized that. It's not 3,500 seconds or something. It's not really, that doesn't make any sense. Or sometimes if I say speed instead of velocity, well, sometimes that's relevant. There's plus and minus everywhere, but sometimes there's not. So, did it really change the question if I made a mistake? So if there's a reasonable answer, you should definitely pick it. But you could get a bonus point on top of everything. If it's really none of these, I will credit you for none of these. Okay, it's covering my backside if I get it wrong. Okay, so I submit to you that through the first 5 questions, none of the wrong answers actually sync up, except one on the first 2 questions. You couldn't have got that far unless you missed a lot. Which some people did. You're not alone if that was you. But you have to be reasonably certain that it's 30 now. Okay. At what 2 times? Oh, man. Okay. This is where the experience that you got last week and that you're practicing today is going to pay off. Okay? Because I gave the height, and we know that it's going to have a motion like this. And so what I'm looking for is the 2 heights, the 2 times where it's passing that height. Okay? Well, actually, if I just knew what velocity it had, right, then time is really easy. And I only come to that conclusion by solving a ton of these problems. Like, oh man, I have acceleration, it's down at 10, I have v0, because I've eliminated all the answers, I'm confident in my 30. If I just knew what the velocity was, then I could easily solve for those times. Okay? I'm not going to take, like, people are tempted to go, okay, I know delta y, so I want to say 10 equals 30 times t minus 5t squared, and I'm going to solve a quadratic. Boo. Yes, you can do that. It's logical, but that's the most possible work for this question, especially if you use that silly quadratic formula. Boo. Okay. What I would do is use equation 3. That's going to tell me those speeds up and down without needing the time, because I already have enough information to solve it since I've memorized all the equations. That can occur to me. There's another one. V squared equals 30 squared plus, careful of your minus signs, 2, the acceleration itself is negative 10, and this one is plus 10, displacement. Okay, so the speed, when it's at that height, accelerating down at negative 10, both on the way up and the way down, is going to be 900 minus 200, the square root of 700. And it's positive and negative, because either one of those times itself would be 700, and that's 10 times the square root of 7. And there might be some radicals on those choices. And so then come on. Ugh. Okay, and since I'm a math wizard enough to do this algebra, the time is really v minus v0 over a. Now a is negative 10, so watch out. And v0 was 30, so that's really plus 3 plus and minus the square root of 7. And so I didn't actually need a calculator, because I'm pretty good at arithmetic, and I didn't need the quadratic formula, and I could just kind of look at the math. Let's zoom back out. Now, if you didn't practice last Friday, come here. No, that's terrible. Why would it let me grab? Yes, why would it let me grab one little piece right there? Okay. Any questions? So I know, it seems like a drag to do everything in symbols and to calculate and use your brain as much as possible. Go all big brain. But actually, if you learn to do that in this class, like draw the algebra out like Einstein on his blackboard, it it reveals coincidences that you might not have seen if you were just crunching numbers and trying quadratic formula and all this nonsense. Do you know where the quadratic formula comes from? Did they show you that in Algebra 1? I used to force my students to do it. What procedure results in the quadratic formula? Oh, good. West Side Math Department's mortal after all. It's called completing the square. Did you learn that? Oh, and it's terrible. Oh, and it's awful. If you take completed the square and perform that procedure all in variables, a, b, c, d, and x, no, there's no d, a, b, c, and x, that results in the quadratic formula. That's where it comes from. It's just completing the square. If you really want to do, and you memorize that final step, so you don't have to go through completing the square every time, but it's the same work as completing the square. But maybe you should write down equations and compare them. Okay. Let me switch videos, because we're over 15 minutes.